We are going a little bit out of order this year, and it's because I'm going to miss a day this coming week, and I don't want to be gone on a day when the lesson's a little confusing. So I'm going to do law of cosines, and then we'll do law of sines, and it has two parts, and the second part is a little confusing, so I wanted to be able to teach that to you. So today we're doing day 3, which is really day 2 this year. We're going to use the law of cosines to find missing measures. So it has two forms. One allows you to find a missing side, and one way allows you to find a missing angle. So not right triangles. At any triangle this will work. We're going to continue with our labeling, except C is not necessarily a right angle. So here is the law of cosines to find a side, and depending on which side you're looking for, you're going to just change up the sides and the angle in your formula. And you will get a formula sheet for your test, but for a quiz you probably want to write this down in your notes. So it's the side squared that you're looking for is equal to the two sides, the sum of the two sides that you know squared, minus 2 times those sides multiplied times the cosine of the angle opposite the side you're looking for. That was a mouthful. But basically, you have side angle side. So you have two sides in the included angle, and the included angle is across from its opposite side that you're looking for. So I don't necessarily remember each of these different forms. I just know that whatever side I'm looking for is going to go here, and then the other two sides and the angle is going to go into the formula. So in this case, c squared is just going to be our two sides, the sum of our two sides added together. 9 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 9 times 14 cosine of 70. It's important that you preserve the order of operations. The biggest mistake I see, people will subtract this and then do the cosine. You have to multiply all of this together before you subtract. So square each of these, get your answer for this, then you can, the order of operations doesn't necessarily matter at that point once you have this multiplied together. And I'm going to add these two, subtract this quantity. To get c squared is 190.82. And then the last problem with law of cosines, people forget this is the square of the side, so make sure you square root it before you give me your final answer. It's going to be 13.8. So nothing really complicated about this. It's really just a few little details that you need to do properly. Other than that, it's just plugging in the right numbers into the formula. All right, so this would be one that you should try. Make sure you know how to use it. So now I'm going to show you how to, basically it's the same formula, just restructured. So notice here, we have the cosine of c included in this side of the formula. If we use algebra to move everything over except for the cosine part, that's the formula for finding an angle. So this is what it looks like. If I moved everything over on the other side, you're going to get the cosine of the angle is equal to the two other sides squared and added, minus the side across from the angle squared, over 2 times the two sides not associated with the angle. And depending on which angle you're looking for, the sides are just going to be in a different place in the formula. It's the same formula. So if you can kind of remember conceptually what it means and not have to specifically plug in A, B, and C, it probably will be best, though you will have a formula sheet. So finding angle C. So if we wanted to find angle C here, the two sides that we aren't associated with the angle, so it's going to be cosine of C equals 12 squared plus 3 squared minus this 14 squared over 2 times 12 times 14. So remember, you want to square and then add and subtract, and you want to multiply all this together before you divide. So that gets us here, which gets us to and it's in a fractional form, but you can turn it into a decimal, it doesn't matter. We're going to end up with cosine of c is equal to negative 43/70. So what does this mean? We're trying to find an angle, and as if I'm going to continually remind you, whenever we want to find an angle, you're going to be using an inverse function. So what we need to do in our calculator, inverse cosine of negative 43/72. And unlike last time, in this unit, unless I tell you differently, you should just assume you're in degree mode. So plug that into your calculator, and you end up with 126.7. So we're finding an angle. Remember, the last step is always going to be an inverse cosine function here. All right, there's one for you to try. Find angle A on this and come to class. Make sure you get the right answer. The last thing I want to tell you about is kind of enhancing what we're using. We're going to move on to actually parallelograms. But if you notice, a parallelogram is nothing more than two congruent triangles. Why? Because these sides are congruent. Diagonals aren't congruent, but we know these angles are congruent. These two are congruent, and these two angles are supplementary. But it turns out we can use the law of cosines to find the diagonal of a parallelogram. If you know a certain amount of information, in this case we have side angle side, so which is exactly what we need for law of cosine. So remember, to find the diagonal, which is going to be basically side A for us, it's going to be a squared is equal to 10 squared plus 12 squared minus 10 times 12 times the cosine of 85 degrees. So this is what we have. Remember, do this, and then subtract, and you're going to get 219.1. And remember what we have, this is the side squared, take the square root, and you get 14.8. So this is where you would use law of cosines to find the length of a diagonal. We're going to be expanding on this at the very last unit of this, very last section of this unit is applications, where we have various types of shapes. So we're throwing in parallelograms and some other things in with the triangles to get you ready for that. That concludes this lesson, so please bring any questions to class.